Hey guys, welcome back to another video. What we're going to be talking about today is how I landed my first software engineering internship and some tips for you guys on how you can land your first software engineering internship, especially if you're in high school, especially if you're looking to go to college soon, what kind of things you should be looking at the colleges you're selecting, or if you're in college right now and how you could improve your resume, just some tips for you guys to land that internship. Because in my experience, most of what I learned that I'm using right now as a full-time software engineer, I learned on the job. I learned at internships and it was not at school. I definitely learned a lot of important things at school, like space-time complexity and algorithms and data structures that helped me land certain jobs. But when it comes to the day-to-day tasks, it's definitely like the most applicable is what I did during my internships. That knowledge and that experience is definitely way more valuable than what I actually learned in school. So if you're new to this channel, what I do here is I talk about some tips on how you guys can become software engineers, how you can succeed as software engineers, or even change career paths to become a software developer, whatever it is. And if you enjoy the content, feel free to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much again. I'm super grateful for each and every one of you, and I'll keep doing my best to make incredible content for you guys. So I wanted to start off by mentioning that I went to the University of Waterloo. It's a school here in Canada, and one of the most important things, and the only reason why I really went to this school, is because they forced the students in certain programs. I studied computer science, and so in computer science, what they do is they force you to have at least 5 internships before you graduate. So it's 5 internships that are 4 months each, with a possible 6 if you want, but just 5 are mandatory. I did 6. And so each one is 4 months. And so if you do 6 internships, you graduate with 2 years of work experience. This is all paid, and it was super valuable because, like I said before, everything I learned about coding, I learned at internships, especially at the later ones when I was working at Silicon Valley. And so the first tip I want to give you guys is if you're in high school, especially if you're in Canada, I know there's a lot of colleges as well as universities that have co-op programs that have internships built into their degrees. And I would highly recommend that, that you make that your first priority when looking for a college or university to go to. In the US, there's also a lot of schools offering internships, and I would make that my number one, deal breaker on whether I'm going to go to that university or not. Not only is this experience super valuable, think about it. You're going to graduate from your degree. You have 2 choices. You go to school, you don't work at all, or you work like at restaurants or part-time jobs, and you go to school and then you graduate and all your experience is irrelevant to your field. But imagine you go to school and you graduate and you already have 2 years of work experience in the field. That literally puts you ahead of 99% of all the other graduates, and it makes getting a job for you so much easier. And also it gives you the pick of the litter, right? A lot of companies are going to want to come to you because you have so much experience, because you've done so much and you have so much knowledge, and then you'll be able to pick out the jobs you want. So I would definitely make that my number one decision. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do the exact same thing. I'd go to a school that has co-op or internships. So let's talk about my first co-op. So after I finished my first year, my first 8 months, 2 semesters of school, it was time to apply for an internship for the summer. And what I did was, at Waterloo, there's a kind of job portal called JobMine. You basically go online. It's like Indeed or any other job searching websites. Companies go to Waterloo and post positions for computer scientists, for really any degree, any position. But there was a lot for engineering and computer science especially. And so what we did was we would go through, apply for the jobs we want. I think there was a maximum of 50 applications you could apply to. And then you would apply, go through the interviews, and if they liked you, they would rank you 1 to 10 or something. And then, if you like them back, you would rank them. I forget exactly how it would work, but basically you interview. If they like you, they'll take you. Otherwise, you just keep going until you find a job. And so what I did my first year is I had my resume. It was super basic. I had my work experience from high school, which was I was a telemarketer. I worked at a restaurant and I volunteered at a hospital. And what I did on my resume was, I quickly realized nothing here is coding related, nothing here is tech related. So I put in the languages I learned during my first year. So there was 2 languages. One of them was completely irrelevant to any job that you could ever get. It's called Dr. Racket. It's basically, I think it's a language that only the University of Waterloo uses, or maybe a couple of other universities. And it's a functional programming language, literally just meant for you to start learning how to code. It was the first time I ever coded was in my first year of university. And so the second one, I think the second semester, we did a bit of C++. And yeah, so that's it. I put those 2 languages on my resume. And then I put some assignments that we had, some little projects that we had during school as my side projects, right? I had no side project. And so I had to kind of put the assignments that we had during school and make it seem like, these are side projects that I've worked on. And I kind of had to fake it to make it, especially during my earlier internships where I had no experience and honestly had no idea how to code. So what ended up happening is that I interviewed for a ton of positions, and then I ended up accepting a job that was kind of QA related or IT related. I was doing a lot of testing. I was doing a lot of, troubleshooting for different people at the company. And yeah, it was kind of not the ideal position that I wanted, but I just accepted it. I think it paid like $16.50 an hour Canadian. Basically, yeah, it was my first real job after high school, and I really had a good time. I didn't learn that much, as part of the field, but it was a good first learning experience. I realized what it was like to work full time for the first time in my life. 40 hours a week, all that good stuff. And I got paid, which is the most important part, because I was able to pay for my rent. I was able to pay for my student loans. So what I quickly realized was that, okay, my first internship was over and it was QA, IT, and I really wanted to become a software developer, right? So then what I did was I went back to school another 4 months, and then for the rest of my degree, it's 4 months of school, 4 months of work, 4 months of school, 4 months of work, blah, 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 until you graduate. And so slowly throughout time, I think my first internship was QA. My second internship was also QA. And then slowly, my third and fourth were kind of front-end developer related. And then my last two I actually spent in Silicon Valley working for a startup, and it was a full stack position. So what you see real quick is that you start off slow. At least this is what I did. There was a lot of people that, got their first internships and they were working at big companies doing software development, but I just didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge at the time. And so I kind of took it more slow. And what I did was I ended up working at Silicon Valley at an awesome startup. I got paid very well, and it was an incredible learning experience. I got to live with some of my great friends. We all lived together. It was awesome. And so that's kind of what I want to leave you guys with, is that you get your first software engineering internship, right? It doesn't have to be the greatest position, obviously strive for the best. At the time, it could seem really important, but you always have to remember this is just a stepping stone, especially if you're in high school or university. None of this really matters. You just try to get as much experience as you can from where you are at the moment, so that you can better apply yourself to future positions, so you can land an incredible job later and you can pass these awesome interviews. Really try to do as much as you can and take full advantage of the opportunity. I want to reiterate again that what I learned during my internships was really like 80% of what I use today. It's really like the most valuable information that I learned during my internships was, how to code. I learned the whole process, pull requests, sprints, stuff like that. Like genuinely, I got the whole experience before I even graduated. And then once I graduated, I had 2 years of work experience. It really made my life a lot easier. I understand that I'm kind of privileged to be in this position, but if I was you guys, I would really make it my number one priority to go to a school that offers internships, because that's where you will learn the most really. It's priceless what you learn when you're actually working and not just at home doing assignments, especially if you get paid. Especially if you can get paid for these internships. I know there's a lot of unpaid internships. I don't really know how I feel about that. It's kind of like a give and take. I guess you do get incredible work experience, but how are you supposed to live, especially in a new city or something like that, on no salary? So, it's kind of interesting, but if that's an option, I would probably take it, but definitely try to get a paid internship, because, it helped me pay for rent, it helped me pay for my student loans, and really gave me more freedom, basically. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like and subscribe. There's a lot of great content coming in the future. We're going to have an interview with a software engineer from Facebook telling us about how to get a job there. And so like, subscribe, and don't forget to enjoy your coding, guys. Thanks a lot.